am that man, your man, the illustrious tour guide, Cole Johnson. And on this episode, we'll touch on hockey, basketball, football, wrestling, and golf. Yes, this show covers the whole gamut of the sports world, and we're not going to waste your time because right now, headlines, please. The sport I did not mention that we're going to touch on, soccer. Yes. And why? Because one of the biggest names in the sport, probably the biggest name arguably in the sport, Lionel Messi, he actually is going to be coming to play soccer in the States. That's right. He's reportedly choosing Inter Miami Club of Football of Major League Soccer as his next club, a stunning development that would actually bring the 2022 World Cup champion and record-setting 7-time FIFA Ballon d'Or winner to one of the newest league's teams. Now, the move isn't official yet. However, with conflicting reports of the finality of the decision and no public announcement from Messi himself, the team, or the league. But people are excited, such as BBC journalist Guillaume Balouche, who wrote Messi's authorized biography. He reported on Wednesday the following, quote, his destination, Inter Miami, but it's not a done deal yet. Close quote. Well, if anything could kick off soccer being a bigger deal in the States, having probably arguably the best player in the sport coming to play here might do the trick. However, that was what was supposed to happen when one Mr. Beckham, and I'm not talking about Odell, came to the States from Europe to play, and interest really didn't kick up. Well, who knows? We shall see. Maybe it will drum up some interest. Maybe it won't. All we'll know is stay tuned. From the pitch to the ice, and from Vegas to Sunrise, Florida. I know that does not sound right. Then I'm mentioning two places that aren't traditional historical hockey hotbeds. But for this year, guess again. That's who's going to be hosting the Stanley Cup Final. So far, they have played their two tilts in Las Vegas with after 2 periods of play in the first game. It seems to be all Golden Knights. In fact, in game 2, it was a 7-2 rout, the Golden Knights over the Panthers, with 2 goals coming in the first period, and that pretty much was it the rest of the game. But the series shifts now to South Beach, and a familiar feeling for the Panthers awaits them. Now, they're down 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Final, or the Panthers. They were down 3-1 in their first round series against the Bruins, and they were down 3-2 in the third period before a literal last-minute goal sent that game into overtime. And with roughly, I think it was like 11 minutes left to go in the first overtime period. And
Game 7.
A goal that the Panthers scored changed the fortunes of 2 teams. One that was supposed to be a lock to be here, to be eliminated that night, and the other who pretty much no one gave a chance to get to this point has. Now, can they get home ice, or I should say, can they defend home ice? Well, that defense has to start soon because game 3 is tomorrow. Now, from the ice action to the diamond, and unfortunately, Aaron Judge, who had a wonderful catch in their weekend series out in LA between the Yankees and the Dodgers. This spectacular running catch turned into a 10-day injury list problem. The Yankees announced later on, the Yankees announced early this week that he will be out of action for at least a week and a half. Now, along with that, it sent Dodger Stadium crews scrambling to fix the fence in right field that Judge barreled through. Now, team executive Stan Kasten also told The Athletic that the Dodgers will strengthen the chain link fence and add extra padding on the concrete portion where Judge injured his big toe. Kasten also said that he initially believed the Judge went through the fence door in the visitors' bullpen. However, once he walked out to the field to see the damage, he realized that the door doesn't open in that direction. So extra padding will be added to the visitors and the home bullpen to eliminate any future injuries. I'm surprised they thought that this would actually stand, considering that, if I'm not mistaken, Dodger Stadium has been erect for over 6 decades, and this problem now surfaces. I would have thought that they would have had that padded just like they do the other portions of that outfield wall. I mean, I get that it's alluring to peer into the bullpen through the gates and all, but safety safety over presentation. That is a must. But you live and you learn. Speaking of living and learning, it looks like the Rangers have lived and learned that their 5-year, $185 million gamble on Jacob deGrom is coming back to bite them. The once before operated on with Tommy John surgery needs that operation again. So the Rangers knew they were taking a literal Texas-sized gamble by signing deGrom. I mean, when he's healthy, who can argue with his results? He's probably the best pitcher on the planet. But there's one problem that seems to rear its ugly head, and the Mets discovered this before the Rangers, and that is his his health history. He's rarely ever healthy. But the Rangers still wanted to believe that all those nagging injuries would magically disappear once his John Hancock was signed on the dotted line. Unfortunately, they waved goodbye to $70 million this past week with the announcement that deGrom will undergo Tommy John surgery to repair a torn ulnar collateral ligament. Now, to give you an understanding of how colossal of a decision this is and how monumental and destructive this could be for the Rangers, the normal recovery time for Tommy John surgery is anywhere from between 12 to 18 months. So we're not talking about deGrom possibly missing the rest of this year only. We might be talking about deGrom missing the rest of this year and all of next year. So it's quite possible he might not be ready and able and available to get on a hill and pitch healthily until opening day 2025. Now, that's not what I'm wishing. I'm saying that's normally how it would go. Hopefully, he will heal up sooner rather than later. But again, that's a tough pill to swallow. And what I have said often, and I'll say it again, Father Time is undefeated. Because time, unlike that Rolling Stones song, is not on Jacob deGrom's side. No, it ain't. Now, from the diamond to the gridiron, and the Jacksonville Jaguars now are beginning work on a long-term stadium solution. Now, this has been in works for the last 3 years. Well, today, as of this recording, the Jaguars unveiled conceptual designs for their renovated stadium. Now, the announcement video claimed that it was, that Jacksonville's a bold city, and with a bold vision for the future, that should match the bold city. And they figure it's time to show the world that Jacksonville has arrived as a world-class city. Now, the design highlights included a base capacity of roughly 62,000 with expansion up to almost 72,000 for a college football game and more for concert, biking, and walking trails and parklands, greenways, beaches, and marshes, and lookout decks that have citywide views. And since that stadium has hosted a Super Bowl, that's almost capacity for them to host another one. Eh, I don't think they're going to get that just yet. Not another one, I should say. The Jaguars owner Shad Khan, he had this to say along with the announcement of the renovations of their stadium. Quote, "We have reached the end of this important and initial phase of this project. The design of the stadium we envision will be the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars and serve our community entirely for generations to come. From stadium discussions starting way back in 2016 to the formal process launched in July of 2020 and now concluding, our objective has always been the same: lock in a promising future for the Jaguars and help our downtown become an economic engine to lift all of Jacksonville, particularly areas that have been underserved. Being able to share the video and stadium design highlights with the people of Jacksonville is a significant step forward toward and in that effort." Close quote. Well, cheers to you, Shad. Cheers to Jacksonville. Cheers to the Jaguars. It looks like you might have staved off that team moving from Jacksonville to a place that's hungry for a team like, say, St. Louis. But I'm not sure that is all locked yet. But that is a good sign in the forward direction for Duval. Staying on the gridiron, but actually going to the video game realm. The newest Electronic Arts, or EA, Madden 24 cover guy has been announced, and that guy's name is Josh Allen. No, not Josh Allen, the defensive, the defensive lineman. No, or linebacker. No, Josh Allen, the quarterback. Yes, the Bills quarterback. Yes, he's going to be the newest cover guy on the popular Madden cover and game. Now, of course, the game will be in stores in 2 months. The 27-year-old signal caller will be the first Bills player to grace the Madden video game, which is surprising because the game's been out 30 years and there hasn't been a Bill that has graced the front cover. That is interesting. And will be entering his 6th NFL season after being selected by the Bills as the 7th overall back in 2018. Now, Allen had this to say about being the cover guy for Madden. Quote, "It's a bit of a surreal feeling. You know, getting to the league is the only thing that's ever really crossed my mind. But going back to a kid, obviously, Madden was what I played growing up. It's actually how I learned the game of football. So to be able to grace the cover of Madden, I'm just happy to be able to be the first Bill to do it. I know my teammates will be pumped up about it. Madden, it's so iconic. I mean, it really is football culture. And, you know, I just love the opportunity to do this, and I'm blown away. You know, words can't do it justice. I think Bills Mafia is going to be very excited about this." Close quote. Well, I know what Bills Mafia will be more excited about, sir. They want you to take their team in Orchard Park, New York, to places it hasn't seen since 1993, and that is a Super Bowl trip. I think they will be more excited about that than you being on the cover of Madden, but I know they will be happy about that too. But if you were to slip up like you did, say, in the divisional round this past year, they actually might take all those games, put it in the pile, and then burn them. I'm not saying that's what I want to see. I'm just saying that is how crazy they can get. But you know that because you play for them. But congratulations to you, Josh. I hope that you enjoy the honor because it is an honor to be graced on the cover of probably the most iconic sports game in the history of video games in its entirety. Maybe this might be a sign of things to come for the good side. Who knows? Now, the NBA Finals is a best of 5. It's not a best of 7 anymore. Now it's a best of 5. Am I making this an announcement? No. The current NBA Finals between the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. It is 1-1 each team as they go from Denver to South Beach. Now, the coach of the Heat, Eric Spoelstra, has preached about the value of adversity for months, and he hadn't shied away from saying that it has helped the Heat to get to the finals. Obviously, 3 years before, that same adversity talk did the same thing, and it got them the same result. Now, the Nuggets will probably have to deal with a little bit of that as well, because the one thing that seems to be missing for both teams, for the Heat, that is consistency on offense. They seem to not have it in game one, and they seem to have it in barrels in game two, especially from the perimeter, where they couldn't buy a bucket from deep in game one, and they made 17 threes in game two. Meanwhile, the Nuggets, they were able to hold the Heat to 93 points in game one, but they decided to just simply hang an out to lunch sign on defense in game two as they allowed 111. So game three is tonight. It is in Miami. And for the Nuggets to stand a chance, they need to get one of these two games either tonight or Friday night. Otherwise, they might have to waive their first opportunity to get a Larry O'Brien trophy. Goodbye. Now, they do have the better team. The question is, do they have the stronger heart? And that is the issue they must solve. And the only issue I have to solve is this is the end of this episode's headlines. A break, and when we come back, a tug of war that was supposed to last years, maybe even decades, it was over in a quick snap of a finger. And we'll visit the VIP zone before then. This is Cole Sportz with a Z. Returning right back after this.
You have to learn to live with yourself before you can make a commitment of yourself to someone else.
When you go to something that's already structured, like the church, I don't need to go in there thinking I'm the pastor. It's like already one set up, you know what I'm saying?
It just had everything, but I learned, you know what I'm saying? Everything I did, I learned from.
So we look forward to seeing you same time, same place. Know that we love you, God loves you more. Continue to stay safe, do the right thing, stay out of trouble.
Conversation that informs a community. Brothers of Legacy. Every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Quinn.
Moment of clarity. I haven't watched BET in years.
KP.
Drake needs to come back with another triple platinum album.
E Digger.
And then you have Ray J. Like, I can't stand that River Cricket.
The Guru.
Okay, the level of crack she's smoking, I don't want it.
BS3 Network proudly presents the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast, where from card tips to hot topics to meep of the week, anything goes. Live every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Central. Welcome back. Cole Johnson, Cole Sportz, and yeah, I think we had to talk about a tug of war that, well, disappointed on
many levels beyond measure. But before I do that, let's visit the most important element of Cole Sportz, and that is the VIP zone. That's right, where you get a chance to be a part of when this is live, commenting. And if your comment is one of the most stellar or spectacular, it will adorn one of the chapters to this particular episode. Now, let me get to the VIP, shall we? No credentials required. Its own Ryan McCarthy. He says, it's classy with a little bit of sassy. Cole Sportz with a Z. Thank you, sir. Victor Locke or Vicola says, ladies and gentlemen, let's get with it. It's time for Cole Sportz with a Z. My brother from another mother, the co-host of Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson, Snowman himself. He says, the classiest sports show on the planet is now live on Snowman Multimedia. Thank you, sir. David 3000, my brother, how you doing? I hope everything is well with you. Ryan, he says, talking about Jacksonville staying put in Jacksonville. He says, look, or God help them, they might become a second team in Chicago. Yeah, because that was talk of them actually moving there too. Scary thought. BS3 Network, as my man Ivan Dawkins would say, the man who put the BS in BS3, or as I like to say, Benjamin Sutter, the owner, manipulator, the operator of the BS3 Network, where this will air Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. I hope you're doing well, sir. Out in the Metroplex area. A Pizzle, who probably has a smile this wide because his Panthers and Heat are competing for championships. He says, with a Z. Snowman says, Cole Sportz is now live on Snowman Multimedia on YouTube, Twitch, and audibly on hashtag FSM Sports. Simulcast rules, baby. Yes, it does. And BS3 or Ben, he says the Heat surprised me in game 2. The Heat surprised me. The Heat's others surprised me in game 2, Ben, and I'm with you on that. I wasn't sure that the bench was going to come or the role players weren't going to come alive because they sort of looked defeated in game 1, but they seemed to have that belief in game 2. They came back fighting. They came back strong, and they actually took, I think, I won't say the Nuggets' best punch, but they took the Nuggets' onslaught, and they erased a 15-point deficit and got them a W. So credit to the Heat, and hopefully they can sustain that when they go home. But the Nuggets there are a tough team to play. Now, how can I broach this subject? So on the links, it was supposed to be this World War III thing, between the PGA Tour and LIV. Okay, all right. Before I get further into the details of this, I think I got to send one of these. Email PGA Tour. Subject email. Big talk, little action. Body of email. What can you say? The golf world and somewhat the sports world too was sent reeling when yesterday morning word came that the PGA Tour and LIV Golf merged. Now, the deal was a shock, of course, considering the controversial surroundings about LIV Golf being backed by Saudi Arabians and the PGA Tour's disapproval of that since the new league was formed. But not many of the key people involved in either of those leagues knew that this deal was happening until it got announced. Now, yet little is still known about what the merger means now and what it means in the future. Like, does this mean more lucrative purses for PGA Tour winners? Or will the PGA Tour shorten to 54-hole tournaments? Or will they stay at the now traditional 72-hole tournaments? Or if LIV players are all eligible for PGA Tour events? All those are great questions to ask, But this is the main question I'm going to ask before I continue. So, PJ Tour, you dug your heels and you got into the trenches and you said this rogue league is not going to buy its way into the hearts, the minds, and the souls of the golfers and golf fans. Oh my goodness. Oh, man. Who really did believe that crap? Come on, man. Now you had so many of the PGA Tour golfers said,
"You've got to be joking me."
And
you for real?
And
this whole thing stinks to high heaven.
And it does. And why does it stink to high heaven? Y'all wanted to back this, I guess, American-ish type of vibe of, well, doggone it, we don't have to buy our golfers. You know, it's all about the tradition. We don't bypass it. We own it. Well, that's all well and good. But sometimes tradition has to be shaken. Sometimes things have to be, loosened up a bit. Like traditional media, for example. Now, this platform wouldn't exist if we didn't have, thankfully, YouTube or StreamYard or other places like Restream or Riverside or let's see if I can think of another one. Take your pick of places you can stream live, even on YouTube itself. You would be stuck with what we see now on TV, the first takes, the undisputeds, the first things firsts, the speak for yourselves, the get ups, and anything that the other 4 big networks will give you. But people are looking for alternatives now because they're getting bored with seeing high-priced people talk about things they love, and sometimes in an unpassionate way, and sometimes in a, how can I put this succinctly, in an insulting and disrespectful way. Like if they were to talk about something that I loved or a team that I love, like the Texans, they would dismiss them. Now, I understand why. I mean, the team is not all that great. Although they're on their way up, the team isn't all that great. Or the Astros. They'll mention the championships, but they would want to talk more about the asterisk that they deserve more than the achievement of actually winning chips and overcoming adversity. You see, change needs to happen. You need to make that shift. You need to go with the flow. And the PGA Tour didn't want to go with that flow. They felt as though status quo was fine. Like when Tiger Woods. Now, we all know that his best days in golf are clearly far behind him. I mean, it is so far in the rearview mirror, it would look like a speck in it. That is how the best of Tiger Woods is so far distant from his current state now. But LIV was willing to roll that Brinks truck at his California or Florida mansion, probably split it and have him roll in both mansions. They were willing to give him $800 million. And because of tradition and because of the prestige of the professional golfing tour of America, he could not take the money. That was last year. Tiger, would you like to have a do-over this year? I know, Tiger. It hurt my heart. But of course, when Brooks Koepka, who's now probably the best golfer now, when he signed to be part of LIV, the dominoes started to fall. And it was interesting. The PGA Tour pushed back hard. LIV just got quiet and silent. They're like, okay, we'll just let our play and our representation do the talking for us. Now, if you all are wondering what the deal means, this is what it will entail. Even though there's still uncertainty, here are the off-the-course ramifications of it. Now, the Public Investment Fund, the Sovereign Wealth Investment Fund of the Saudi government, they will make a capital investment into the new entity to facilitate its growth and success. And the fund will also be the exclusive investor of the new entity that is the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. The governor of that fund, Yasir Al-Rumanian, he will be a part of the newly formed board of directors. Another is all outstanding litigation, including a lawsuit filed by a number of golfers who joined the LIV Tour, filed against the PGA Tour, gone. Now, how did they reach this deal that they shouldn't have gotten here so soon? Well, the two sides were actually in talks for almost 2 months, the last 2 months, and Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner, and Al Ramayan met, and then the meetings were arranged by the PGA Tour board member, Jimmy Dune. Now, Monahan realized that LIV Golf had a deep well of funds and wasn't going to go anywhere. Money talks. And I'm glad you realized that sooner rather than later. Now, he says that golf was too divided and had too much tension, and it was best for everyone to unite. Now, the PGA Tour was so adamant about LIV golfers not being allowed on the tour. Will they be now? Well, the LIV Tour, LIV Golf is currently in the middle of their tour season, which isn't scheduled to end until November. Now, once that season ends, the three leagues will work cooperatively and in good faith to establish a fair and objective process to allow players who did leave the tour and even the DP Tour to reapply for membership. Now, will this mean that the tour itself, the PGA Tour, will change? Now, one of the main differences between LIV and the PGA is that LIV plays 54-hole golf tournaments while the PGA plays 72. Now, while the PGA Tour hasn't confirmed if changes will be made to tournaments, more than likely, it's unlikely. The tour basically said that it retains administrative oversight of events for those assets contributed by the PGA Tour, including the sanctioning of events, the administration of the competition, and their rules. Now, this is what makes me smile. And why does it make me smile? Because LIV was considered controversial. How dare this league get funded by oil money and blood money, come up and actually usurp its strength against the strong established centuries-old PGA Tour, which is as American pie as it gets. The LIV Tour drew criticism because of what funded it and who funded it. Saudi Arabia has been accused of wide-ranging human rights abuses, including politically motivated killings, torture, forced disappearance, and inhumane treatment of prisoners. And members of the royal family and Saudi government were accused of involvement in certain murders, especially of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi journalist and Washington Post columnist. Now, LIV Golf has been seen as the Saudi government taking part in sports washing or using sports to polish a country's otherwise problematic reputation. Problematic faves. But this isn't a relationship show. I will not touch that. What I find interesting about all this is you all dug your PGA, you dug your heels. You were saying that this was a stain on the whole sporting world, not just the golfing world. This was a stain on the sporting world. But you now all of a sudden have this kumbaya moment because from what I can understand and ascertain, the Saudi government still has those same controversial happenings. They still have what what you all view as blood money. They still have what you all view as oil and blood money, and they still seem to be something that doesn't really fully represent what the PGA Tour does. But you come together. Why? Because the money was too good to pass up. The shame of it all is it's a lesson that my father told me when I was about 12 years old. And he said to me, son, I'm sorry, quote, son, money talks, walks, close quote. Cole Johnson, Cole Sportz, Cole Sportz with a Z at gmail.com. From the vault is next, and then the dolt of the week.
You're listening to the classiest sports show on the planet. Cole Sportz! From the vault, a look back at a key moment in sports history.
June 7th, 1981. Now, this is the French Open Tour season, and during it was a guy who was just straight up and absolutely hot on the men's scene. And that guy was Bjorn Borg. And why is this important? Well, you got to understand, he was the defending champion of the French Open and Wimbledon in 1979 and 1980 of both tournaments. So coming into 1981, he was looking to defend both those tournaments championships. And he was the number one seed, breezing through the tournament. Straight sets in the quarterfinals, straight set victory in the quarterfinals, 3-3-2. Straight sets in the semifinals, 4-4-5. Meanwhile, this newcomer came upon the scene from Czechoslovakia. His name, Ivan Lendl, who in the quarterfinals beat John McEnroe in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4, 7-5. And he took a 5-setter in the semifinals, but won 6-2 in the fifth over Jose Luis Clerc of Argentina to advance to the finals. It was a 5-set tilt, and it was a grueling matchup. And, of course, that's the style of one Bjorn Borg. He wore people down with ground strokes at the ground stroke at the ground stroke. Now, what made Lendl interesting is that he also had the similar type of style. He started to build a lot of strength with it, but he didn't quite have it there, and he didn't have the composure to deal with a Bjorn Borg there as well. Borg did win the tournament, and he won the final in 5 sets. 6-1, 4-6, 6-2, 3-6, 6-1 in the fifth. Now, why is this important? Well, this was his 6th French Open championship. He won the most in his career. Didn't even win as many Wimbledon titles as that, which is surprising to me. And it's 11th overall. But the thing is, that was his last ever Grand Slam championship. He would go on to lose in 4 sets to John McEnroe the following month in Wimbledon, and in 4 sets to McEnroe in the US Open in September. Bjorn Borg wins his 11th and final Grand Slam championship getting the French Open title for the 6th time on this date in 1981.
From the vault, brought to you by Cole Sportz. This is a journey into crime. A podcast journey that tells the stories of those long forgotten or those easy to remember. We go on a journey that reveals mystery, intrigue, and offers more twists and turns than a country highway. We have looked over cases, we've combed over evidence and testimony, yet we still are left with no answers. Sometimes, in order to get a deeper understanding of something, you must return to view. Now available for download for subscribers only. Each episode premieres only on the USA Today Network. Join now for just $1 to receive premium content like Return to View. That's $1 to become a subscriber and a Return to View loyal listener. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
Welcome back to Cole Sportz. Cole Johnson here. And back to the VIP zone we go.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special report from Cole Sportz.
This is into the Cole Sportz news desk. The tilt between the Yankees and the Phillies has been postponed tonight due to the wildfire smoke that has leaked from Canada all the way to the States. Now, it has been reported that it was hazy conditions yesterday in Boston and in New York as well. And now, don't know when they will be made up. We'll find out when. We'll find out soon. But as of tonight, the Yankees and the Phillies have been canceled due to the wildfire smoke in the province of Quebec. Whew. Hopefully, we can get that situation solved soon. Ugh, trouble times ahead.
This has been a special report from Cole Sportz. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming, already in progress.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. And now it is time for the Dope of the Week. Dope of the Week is sponsored by nobody. The winner of this episode's Dope of the Week is... Uncle Woke. Rebel Without a Pause. woke people's champion, Kyrita Herbal Tea, Kyrita Pinkett Smith, Kyrie Irving. And why is he slotted here? I'm so glad you asked that question. Here's why. Now, when people were inquiring what he wanted to do in the offseason, he got on his high horse. You know, he basically sort of gave everybody what for. And people had the nerve to want to ask him about what his future was. And I just didn't understand why he was so rebellious about it. But he was. And he was trying to be coy. And he said things such as, quote, "What I do is my business. Where I go is my business. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, and it's none of your business. When I find out, that is when you know. Until then, you're not going to know, and don't harass me. I want to enjoy my off season." Close quote. Buddy, people got jobs to do, like me. And I personally don't care where you go, because the track record speaks for itself. Whether it's with the Cavaliers, the Celtics, the Nets, or the Mavericks, you leave scorched earth, son. Now, you're not as bad as your father, number 6 of the Lakers. He leaves scorched earth, but it's more along the lines of win now, pay the piper later. With you, it's have me be the number 1 player on the team, and the team will suffer now and later. And that's a problem, because now you have 4 franchises, including the one you're on now, saying
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
And I'm sure Mark Cuban, when he pulled this trade off before the All-Star break, I'm sure he now wants to say so badly now. And I fully understand that in him because of it. What I do know, sir, is that you now are taking a page from your father's book. Yes. No, not your biological father. No, your basketball father. And I'm saying it for this reason. It got under your skin back in 2016, didn't it? When you had a reporter ask you, how did it feel to have someone the stature of LeBron James take you under his wing? Have you learned so much from him? And you were so put off by that question. But the fact is, you have. You've learned a lot. And this is yet another tactic. The first one I just outlined, stay out of my business. You'll know when I let you know. And here comes this past week, where it was leaked out that you want LeBron James to be part of the Dallas Mavericks. I said you wanted LeBron James to be part of the Dallas Mavericks. No. I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I said you want LeBron James to be a part of the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. All right. Here's why I find it funny. Kyrie, you know the situation that LeBron James is playing in right now, correct? 1, he re-upped, and he's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. 2, the only way he probably will move would be if Bronny James is being drafted, and he's not coming out to be in the NBA draft this year. Next summer, that's a different story, possibly. Number 3, Dallas doesn't have enough cameras for LeBron James. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, yes, media will follow him anywhere. It doesn't matter where he plays. The media will follow him. I'm not talking about those cameras. No. I'm talking about the cameras that Al Pacino and Robert De Niro look at. I'm talking about the ones that Denzel Washington and Jamie Foxx look at. I'm talking about the ones that Meryl Streep and Glenn Close look at. I'm talking about the Hollywood cameras. See, those are the cameras that he wants to have on him at all times. He can't get that in the Metroplex. Now he can foot the bill, but that bill will be mighty expensive. That's why he's not in Cleveland still, because he would have to pay an arm and a leg to have a media company that would be Hollywood-ish to be in Cleveland, because he would have to ship so many people from LA to get over there to do all that stuff with him. And then they have to go back to LA and do what they do and put they sprinkle their pixie dust and magic on it. It is not cost effective. So what is cost effective? He moves there. So he's now moved to LA. He's been there for 5 years. He seems to like it there. And it's not because of the Lakers. It's because of Hollywood. And you actually think because of basketball reasons that LeBron James is going to be there? I said you actually think for basketball reasons LeBron James is going to be in Dallas. I said for basketball reasons, you actually think Yo Kang is going to move from LA, the place where he is looking at a whole lot of cameras, to Dallas, a place where, yes, business rules, and you could probably get some wonderful media action in there, but one where it is not even close to the level of LA. No. The only place that the NBA houses, well, only two places maybe, where you could probably get similar action from him in that vein would be New York for sure. And from an outside perspective, Toronto maybe. But Toronto's a little bit cost prohibitive too, because you have to travel borders. Now, Mr. Irving, you're dealing with a player who is not really all that invested in playing basketball, really. He's more invested in wanting to have his future be televised. You know, you've heard the saying, the revolution will not be televised. Well, LeBron is the type that he wants not only this revolution to be televised, but he would like for it to be broadcasted, mixed, edited, followed, scripted, and with all of the pyro and all of the makeup and all of the trims and fixings that a big time $1 billion Hollywood production would provide him. He has one foot in the NBA and the other foot in Hollywood. What makes this story so funny is that there's some of you out there who actually believes that he will do it. And probably Kyrie the Herbal Tea, or World People's Champion, or Rebel Without a Pause, or Uncle AWOL, he believes that. But you too, sir, have one foot in the NBA and the other foot outside of it. The question is, you don't know what's the other foot on, because it's not in Hollywood. And you don't know if the other foot is going to be in intellectual pursuits. You don't know if that other foot is in social justice. You don't know if the other foot is in healthcare. You don't know if the other foot happens to be in black issues. It's just anywhere you deem at that time for that other foot to be. Well, I hope you enjoy that search, sir, because people do want to know where you want to go and what you want to do. And of course, now you're saying that you want to be a Maverick. This sounds extremely similar to last year when you were trying to shop yourself out of out of Brooklyn. And there wasn't a team that was willing to foot the bill for your sometimey behind to play on it. They're like, no, Kyrie, you're too sometimey. We're not going to slide that much money for you to only want to play half the season. And then we're probably saying we're being too rich to say you're playing half a season. You might only play a quarter of it. You know, like you played barely over, not this past year, but the year before. Your reputation is not that stellar. Now, it's probably gotten a little better because you tried to be on the straight and narrow last year or this past year. But let's get something straight. That was a great smoke screen, sir, in wanting to have LeBron be recruited to the Mavericks. And here's the last reason why that wouldn't work. Think back to Miami. He was there, and that team was Wade's until he got there. But he wanted to make the front office moves like he did in Cleveland twice and like he does now in L.A. But when LeBron went into that front office and he asked Pat Riley, quote, "Do you ever get that itch to be back on the sideline again?" Close quote. Mr. Riley basically said to him, "You deal with the court, you lead out there. I lead in this boardroom and in this office. The front office stuff, it's not yours, that's mine. Stay out of it. Go." And I knew he enjoyed the 2 championships. He enjoyed playing with his boy. But mostly he did not really like the experience because he did not have full control over it. He would not have full control over his situation in Dallas. Why? Because that ship is all Mark Cuban's. And I'm not saying that Mark Cuban is an egomaniac. No. He does have some egomaniacal ways, but that's okay. I don't mind it. He acts like a fan. I should like him. It's the fact that he runs the show, and LeBron wants to run the show. He won't get a chance to run that show. So that was a great leak. I thought that was absolutely entertaining. But you have no marbles if you think that LeBron James is going to pick up from where he is now, where he has the world at his oyster, where he can write whatever narrative he wants, to have people barely give a crap about him and have the pool of cameras go from this to this because Hollywood is a little bit further away than to his liking. Nah, son. Why don't you go back to peddle Hebrews to Negroes again? I think you were much better served doing that. You're such a space cadet. One more break, and we were going to dedicate the rest of this show to one of the greatest wrestlers ever. Sheik, baby. This is for you. This is Snowman, the morning with Cole. I'm sorry. This is Cole Sportz. I love that era. We're right back. I got to do that again.
Do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and say face.
What brings a smile to my face is the one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations.
Coming up on next week's installment of Cole Sportz. Who won the Stanley Cup? Who won the Leo Bryant Trophy? Because more than likely it will be decided by this time next week. Both those contests, both the series will probably be over by then. And other things, mainly baseball. Some movement in NFL, some movement in NBA as they would gear toward the draft, and other things that will pop up, and maybe even a little bit of tennis too. Who knows? But for right now, let's go back to the VIP zone, the most important element of Cole Sportz, and my man Vicola. He says, and now Stupid University presents the Dolt of the Week. He said after that, look, I said earlier on the Brian Snow show, the worst thing that could happen is LeBron going to Dallas. Why? Imagine if Bronsexuals merged with the moronic republic of Cowboys Nation. Moronic republic. That's hilarious. Oh, my goodness. Between the moronic republic of Cowboys Nation and my man Cool McCain calling the Cowboys Arlington football team is absolutely hilarious. And in between that, he said, God, Kyrie Pickett Smith whines about absolutely everything. Ain't that the truth? Yes, he does. It almost makes you want to ask the question, is he ever happy about anything? But what I'm not happy about, but happy about doing in terms of reliving the memories of, is the following. So earlier today, we learned that the Iron Sheik passed away at the age of 81. And, you know, it broke me up a bit. It shook me a little when I saw the news. But I'm going to remember the happy times and what he gave me. And hopefully you can join me when we do this as I go in. Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri. That's the name of this wonderful man, Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri. Now, a lot of the boys, and for those who aren't familiar with wrestling vernacular, the co-workers of wrestlers, they call themselves the boys. The boys all either call them Khosrow or Kaz. And I'll talk about what the boys thought of him later. But you don't know him by that name. No, you know him as the Iron Sheik. And I originally got to know him as the Iron Sheik. And I remember back in the 80s, and I saw this guy wear the headdress and had the bronze skin, and he had the thick mustache, and he had the thick husky built, but was as strong as a bull. And he had then the WWF champion Bob Backlund on my mother's birthday in 1983 in this move called the camel clutch, where the guy who's receiving it is looking like this. And Sheik is on top of you and he's wrenching your neck, snapping it back. Well, why am I talking about this event? Well, this event is what made the character forever immortalized. So he has Backlund, who has been the WWF champion for almost 6 years. And his manager, Arlo Skolin, threw in the towel. And they put the belt on him. And he was WWF champion for 4 weeks. And then he helped usher in what we all know as Hulkamania when he dropped the title to him January 24th of 1984. Now, many would probably say, okay, well, that's a footnote. But no. To me, that 1 month as champion, the 1 month as the company's champion, that was a rubber stamp. And that was a sign of approval from the wrestling world to him, saying that the character that he came up with resonates so much. It resonates so well. It is powerful. It's impactful. And why? Well, he was hated. He was absolutely hated. And why wouldn't he be hated? So he's in an American company, an American wrestling company. And it's at a time where America's patriotism was at an all-time high. And that if you were to say anything disparaging about America, you would get roundly booed, even if you were an American. What makes it even worse, well, makes it even better for him in terms of character, but worse for anybody if this was real, was that he was an Iranian. And I don't mean by character, I mean by lineage. He came from Iran. And of course, back then, Iran and the United States had frosty relations with each other. A little history lesson. So in the fall of 1979, the Iran, I won't say the Iranian government, but there was terrorists in Iran. They hijacked the U.S. embassy in Tehran and held certain Americans hostages for a little bit over a year, about maybe a year and 2.5 months. One of those hostages happened to be the father of the Warriors head coach Steve Kerr. So yes, during the Carter administration, Jimmy Carter, you had that happen. And then the moment Ronald Reagan takes over as president, January 20th, 1981, the hostages were released. So fast forward 3 years, you can understand why most Americans would have a cold, frosty thought when it came to any Iranian. And then you had someone as smart as Kaz or Sheik or Sheiky Baby, as we got to know him later, play into it so well that you only could want to choke the neck of this guy. So for those who aren't really versed in wrestling, it's a good thing if you play a character that people would want to climb over the rails to want to be down. You know, you wanted people to get their blood boiling so much, have them build that hate up towards you so much that you would want them to come out and beat you down. But of course, they weren't going to do that to Sheik because he was one of the strongest individuals I've ever known, and they would have been clobbered in the next year if they tried. I'm sure some did, and I'm sure some were. But he was more than just his WWF persona of a, I guess you could say, of a Sheik. And he was more than when he later on teamed up with Nikolai Volkov, who was a Russian, and they won the WWF Tag Team Championships. He was more than I think they held that title for about a year and a half. He was more than just that. He was more than just a side piece or a side attraction. In fact, in 1984, he was one of the 3 biggest attractions that there was in WWF. Of course, Hogan with anybody was a big attraction on one side, and the other side, his feud with Sergeant Slaughter was the thing of legend. But before that, he was a trainer, a wrestling trainer. Go back to the AWA days, and guys such as Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair and Ken Patera will tell you how good of an instructor Sheik was. And he definitely was a great wrestler. And he knew the sport of wrestling. And I don't mean the sports entertainment version. I mean the actual sport of wrestling. Because he was an Iranian Olympian in wrestling. And the owner of the AWA, Vern Gagne, wanted Olympians. And so he grabbed Kaz or Sheik, and he helped train these new wrestlers that were coming into the sport. And everybody that knew him, Steamboat, Flair, Patera, Michael Hayes, Junkyard Dog, Roddy Piper. I mean, everybody who knew him, even Hulk himself. Everybody who knew him, everybody that was around him, would always talk about how of a wonderful guy he was. And he was an athlete for sure. I remember one time he was in the ring and he picked up these interesting looking clubs. And he would twirl it around like this. And those doggone clubs looked like it weighed about 100, maybe even 150 pounds each. And Sheik, with that strength, was just doing this with them like it was nothing. Like they were 5 pounds. And I later did research on it and I found out they were called Persian clubs. And I was wondering, how the heck would you have such great low center of gravity and not have, when he would twirl the Persian clubs, not have him rock from right to left? The guy was strong. The guy was an athlete. And yes, he was cute and he knew how to play a gimmick and he played the gimmick up and all that was wonderful. But this guy was an athlete. This guy was one where he could take you out if he wanted to. But if he had respect for you, he wouldn't do it. Now, most of us didn't really know that side of him. I did, because I did see him. Most people know him for what they call shoots or straight up raw behind the scenes wrestling interviews. And his Twitter account, Sheiky Baby, because he would come raw at anybody that he did not like, but he would also come respectful for the people he did like. And if you want to also know another impact of the Iron Sheik that you probably didn't know, you've heard of the word jabroni. Yeah, now this was said behind the scenes for a good while. And then this character called The Rock comes in and he would use the word jabroni to insult anybody and everybody. In fact, it got to the point where he even used it in Jabroni Drive when he would talk talk all sorts of trash toward anybody. Jabroni, stupid fool, dummy, idiot, a-hole. It was used in place of those words and those terms. Well, Mr. Dwayne Johnson borrowed that term from Sheiky Baby. That was an original term that came out of the mouth of the Iron Sheik. His presence in the wrestling world will forever last. And yes, he did do the Terror #1, Russia #1, USA, but that was in character. And he played the character better than anybody ever could. And there's only one other wrestler that I would say that was a better heel or bad guy than Sheiky Baby. And that'd be Roddy Piper. What I dislike, though, is that Piper did get his flowers for being the wonderful athlete that he was and the wonderful character that he was. It took years after retirement for Sheik to get those flowers. And he was one of the most entertaining guys that wrestling's ever produced. So all I gotta say to you is, Sheiky Baby, thank you for the memories, man. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for what you are. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you have put forth in wrestling. Thank you for showing the way as to really commit to a gimmick and to draw that money so you could be the ultimate bad guy or even the ultimate good guy. Thank you for showing the way as to how to entertain all of us that love you, that appreciate you, that just simply wants to have our characters live up to being the superheroes that we all want them to be, the superhero that you really were and that you really are. Thank you, Iron Sheik. One more trip to the VIP zone, and here we go. Mr. Rye, how you doing, sir? I hope everything's good with you. Thank you. All I have to say to you all is thank you for everything that you all have presented in front of me. I do this for you. I don't do this for me anymore. I do this for you, and I'm so glad that you all are here to have the strongest of classy, hot sports takes. And if you feel led to donate to the show, all you have to do is go to cash.app/$host Cole Johnson. That's cash.app/$host Cole Johnson. That's all the time I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. For all of us here at Cole Sportz, I am Cole Johnson. And this is...
Thank you for tuning in to Cole Sportz. To download this episode, go to Spreaker and type Cole Sportz with a Z. For apparel, go to Spring and type Cole Sportz VIP Boutique. That's with a Z. To reach Cole Johnson, go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. This has been a Comey Media Incorporated presentation.
Bye.